Hi everyone, it's Linda from LyndaCreates. Have a new project this week. I did another Stitch Your Stamp and I used a stamp by Tim Holtz called Urban Chic. It's an older stamp, but since it was Valentine's Day coming up and it had this lovely heart on here, I've been wanting to stitch it. I had a lot of fun stitching this, did a lot of beads and French knots and a few other unique things. I did a new to this channel stitch. I will show you how to do it. So check out how I made this. So to start this project, I am working with the Stampers Anonymous Tim Holtz stamp set called Urban Chic. It had this gorgeous heart in there. I decided that is what I wanted to stitch my stamp. So I'm working with that stamp, and I already have my stamp platform ready to go. And what I did was I cut a piece of fabric, and I'm going to move all this aside, but I cut a piece of fabric that is 7 inches square, and it is a medium weight fabric with a fairly tight weave. For what I want to do, basically my plan is it needs to be tight enough of a weave for the stamping with enough structure to hold up to a lot of stitching. So that's why I picked this fabric, and this was thrifted from an upholstery store that had remnants, and I just love going in there and picking through their remnants because they have fabric like this that's absolutely gorgeous to work with and very inexpensive. But my first thing I want to do is stamp, and this one I'm going to use my jet black archival ink and my stamp platform. Okay, I'm going to let that dry thoroughly. I'll probably, just for good measure, I'll throw a little heat on it with my heat gun just to make sure it sets. But there's enough an idea of where I want to stitch. This is a 4-inch hoop, so you could kind of see how small this is. So I'm starting off with embroidery floss first, and I have 3 needles already threaded with 6 strands. So I'm going to start with the medium red color, and I'm going to do the heart first. I'm trying something a little different for me. Well, let me explain too. I have my needle puller, and I use it because it hurts my hands a little bit to pull the needle through as it gets thicker, so, or as it gets heavier in this case. And this is just a really simple needle puller for that last push through. And I had to use a fairly big needle because it is 6 strands, so it is a little harder to pull through. I'm trying not to pull it too tight. Okay, I'm going to set my needle aside in that color for right now. I'm going to come up taking the darker color don't want to tangle. I'm going to park my medium red over there just so I don't across the stitching behind. Okay, just so it doesn't look like just stripes of color, I'm going to mix it up a little bit and come up with, introduce the medium pink back in. Just for a couple of stripes. I'm just going to do those two, and then I'm going to come back with my dark red again. I'm going to park my red. Now I'm going to bring in my lightest pink over on this side, and I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to blend it in a little bit. I'm going to park that, go back to my medium pink. So basically what I'm doing is just mixing in a little bit of this medium pink stitch, and I'll park it over here and come back with my light pink. Because what I'm going to do is start weaving it. So I'm going to rotate it around and start with this lightest color. And I'm going to go backwards so I don't have the point of the needle catching on the threads. I'm just going to do a few weaves at a time. And this definitely is a slow stitching kind of task. And I'm not pulling it all the way tight yet. I'm going to get this first stitch in there. Okay, so now I could pull it a little bit tighter. And if you want, you could take another needle. I always keep one bigger needle on the side here. Okay, so there's the first row. So once you have that first row in place, you want to make sure it's straight across. And I'm going to catch this first thread on the right, vertical thread on the right. And I'm just going to weave in the opposite direction. And I just want to say maybe the first, as the stitches are very small on this side, you don't have a lot of room. And I am doing one stitch at a time. Okay, so there's the second stitch. I'm going to do the third row across before I change colors. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go down into the fabric to lock it down in place. And I'm going to do, again, one vertical stitch at a time, just to stay accurate. Okay. So now I have that going across. I like to keep it fairly tight in there. going to take the thread down. I'm going to take the thread down and park it over here. Maybe what I'll do is start with the dark red next. And just to let you know too, I'm thinking also of the light coming from this direction. If you looked at the stamp, you could see there's a shading on this side. So I'm always keeping that in my mind. That's why it's lighter, the lighter pinks on the left side, darker pinks on the right. When I go in with the darker red floss, I am working in that direction. So the bottom will be darker. So I finished off the dark red at the bottom, and I'm coming back in with the light color that I left off in the middle there, but I'm going to do just the left half of the heart. So I just want to make sure everything's tucked down, and then I'm just going to start weaving back the other direction. So I'm just going to finish off the top of the left-hand side of the heart. Okay, so I'm set up to do the next part of this. I have the heart in place. Now in this, let me bring the art back. See the ribbon on the bottom of the heart that goes across? I want to put that in first because you could see the colors are coming off on top of it on the sides here. So I'm going to add some ribbon. And I just happen to have this thrifted, doesn't show up on the camera, but it is a hot pink color. So it is a little thicker than the ribbon on the stamped image, but that's kind of where it's going to go. And I'm going to see if I could actually make it fold. Something like that-ish. So I basically took a little piece, cut both corners or both ends into those little pointy corners. Start from there, fold back, and fold back again. Something like that. Okay, something like that. Now, this might be a little bit too fragile of a ribbon to work with. You could see it's shredding on the ends, but I'm still going to move forward with it. Might be foolish, but you could see I put a fold in the ribbon, and I'm just tacking it down. I don't want to, just to hold the folds in place. So I'm just using white thread. I'm going to stop there because, again, it is just a tacking stitch. I don't even need to knot it off at the back. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I have both of the side ribbons looking fairly symmetrical. So I'm going to start doing this rays that come out of it. I'm starting with the darkest color first, and now there's other types of things coming out over here. Again, there's all these squiggly things, so we'll come back to that, but I want to lay down the rays that are coming out first. Now I'm laying it across so that I could see that they line up in the direction that I want, and they are supposed to be emanating from the heart. And I'm kind of laying down the foundation stitch because I want it to explode with color. And you can see why I put the ribbon down over here down first, because I want some of these to flood over it. But what I'll do is, as I go around, I will end up spacing them out a little bit more. And this side will be a little bit more of the dark pink, and this side won't have as much. So I'm introducing the next shade of pink, and I'm just again doing this exact same thing. I'm just stitching it. What I'm kind of doing is blending in the medium pink. So this is the time when I really need my needle puller. I did the dark pink and I did a round of medium pink. I'm going to add another color. Not the light pink yet. I'm going to save that for near the end. But to mix it up a bit, I'm going to throw in some turquoise or aqua. And I'm mixing in embroidery floss now. And this is 3 strands of this aqua color. That's it for my dark aqua binge. Okay, ready for the next surprise color? It's a light aqua. Let's see. I think the beauty of adding colors like this, it takes away the predictability of what you're going to do. And it basically is pleasing to your eye if you choose the right colors. Going back in with another color. Okay, lighter pink, predictable, but necessary. I especially want to use it up in this corner. I'm concentrating a little bit more of the light pink up at this top corner, just because it is where the light is coming from. So I have the flare coming out of it. I'm going to use a single strand of an embroidery floss that is the same color as the top part, or as a ribbon, and I am just going to sew it down so it is nearly invisible. The beauty of slow stitching is you do what you have to do. You embrace the imperfections, and you just kind of go with the flow. So I have the banner part sewn in. I'm just going to cut just to keep it in place. So I'm just cutting out the basting stitches to hold it. So the next thing I'm going to do is do French knots and beads around the outer part. Because I have beads coming in that will also add some color, I don't need to do as many French knots. And I'm just going to work my way around. So I tied some French knots around the outer edge, and now I'm adding a few beads, the lighter pink beads, and I decided I'm going to add some within the flare part of it as well, trying to keep them a little random while covering up the dots on the stamp too. I finished stitching the little beads and French knots around the flare, around the heart. So now what I'm going to start working on are these wiggly parts on both sides of the heart. I'm going to leave the ribbon in front last because that's on the top part or the top layer, but I do want to get these wiggly parts now. I'm going to try something called a Bullon Knot, and to do that you need these milliner's needles. And what makes milliner needles unique is that the eye of the needle is the same width as the shaft of the needle, so it keeps the same, it doesn't taper on the body, so it works better for this particular stitch. So what I have is size 3 milliner's needle. You have to take it out of the hoop because of the way you have to rotate it. Okay. And you want to do I'm going to do it this way. You want to do a back stitch and then come back out where you went in. Okay, so you're coming back out right there. But before you pull the needle through, you want to start wrapping it. Now, you don't want to pull too hard. You want to hold it in place. That's what this finger's doing. And I also have my finger on the back side too to hold it. So you just start wrapping, and we're trying to cover this distance in the wrap. So I don't know, maybe 15. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We'll do 13 because I want it to curve a little bit. So I'm going to hold the thread, and this is when my needle puller is going to come in real handy. So I might have. Okay, so then you just want to keep pulling through until it pulls itself back on itself. Okay, so you have to pull a little bit harder. So you see how it curved in on itself? That's what you want it to do. And I'm going to do, I want it to curve slightly, so. Okay, so that's what I want it to do. Let's see. Let me move this out of the way so it stops focusing on that. Yeah, so that's what you want it to do. I'm going to come up. I'm going to go to where I want it to end. And then I'm going to back stitch it to where I came from. Okay. And before I pull anything through, I'm going to start wrapping, and I'll probably do the same number. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. Grab my trusty needle puller, and let's try it again. Just make sure it doesn't knot down here. And once you have that, you go back down and plant it down there. You come up, you go in where you want it, where it's going to end, and then you back stitch it to where you just came from. Now, you have to do the wraps again. And you want to do it not too tight, but you want it to be a consistent shape. Now this is going to be longer than the other ones, so I did what, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20? 21, 22. Let's try that. I know people do this stitch and it looks so graceful. Mine never does, but I am getting that stitch done. So I do have that curve that I wanted. So, and come up there. I want it to go back there, back stitch it, and before I pull it through, I think about 10 will do. I don't need that many. I'll do 11. So what I have it doing now is making a loop and then going up. I'm working on the last bullion stitch for this project, and I have to say that doing a whole bunch of bullion stitches is really what makes it so that you get much better at it. So I'm going to do, I've been doing about, for the long ones, about 25 wraps. So I have 23 on there right now. Let's stop at 25. And I have to say, having a needle puller is definitely a help. Okay, I am getting bullion stitches done. So I found a couple of little tricks. One is, okay, so you pull it back on itself, and I kept getting this little bit right here that I couldn't tighten up. I mean, as I tried pulling, but it doesn't tighten up. So what I found to do, and I don't know if this is right or not, is on the back side, let's see, is to find the back part of that stitch. So this is the bit of the thread that's causing me the problem in front. And just pinching and pulling that through. Till you pull it all through. So again, I've had that little piece on almost every single one of my bullion stitches, so it's something I'm assuming other people will have. Maybe not. Maybe it's just me. So I'm just going to stop there on the bullion stitches. And again, you could see how it has these little wrappy, flowy things. And I have that now. I just wanted to share, I finished up this project. I stitched down the front part of the ribbon there, and then I went around and with a single strand of embroidery floss and 2 wraps on the needle, I went around and did these teeny tiny little dark pink French knots to finish off a little more cluster of dots around the side. I also did a back stitch of red floss, 6 strands around the heart to make it stand out. Definitely looks better with that. And then I have my bullion stitches, which were a blast to make. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe so you get to see all my other videos when I upload every Sunday morning. And please check out my website. It's LyndaCreates.com. That's Linda with the Y, LyndaCreates.com. And I have my other projects listed there, so you can see those with links to my YouTube channel so you can watch the videos. But also on my website, you'll find a stitch directory for each project. So if there's a stitch you don't know about, I have an illustration to show you how to make it. So again, thanks so much, and I will see you in my next video.